Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Ask the Archivist webinar.
Okay, are we live? Ready to go?
We are live, Nicole.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Nicole Manchese from the Long Island Library Resources Council. My pronouns are she and her. Thank you for joining us for the ESLN Services webinar series. In today's session, we'll be talking about the Ask the Archivist resource that is available to you now. Before we get started, I'd like to take care of some housekeeping. We will be utilizing the chat as well as the Q&A feature for this webinar. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat now if you'd like. And please use the Q&A feature to ask questions so that they don't get lost in the chat. You can find towards the bottom of the center of your screen where the Q&A feature is. Our presenters, including myself, will be taking questions after this presentation about the service and specific to the service. Also, I want to mention that live captioning is available for this webinar. To toggle the subtitles on or off, go down to the bottom and click the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen and choose either show subtitle or hide subtitle. This webinar will be recorded and a link to the recording will be shared in the next few days. The email containing the link will also provide information about getting a certificate of attendance. The forms to request a certificate of attendance and also evaluate this webinar will be posted in the chat towards the end of this session. Quick background for you all. If you are unfamiliar with ESLN, this refers to the Empire State Library Network, an organization comprising the 9 reference and research library councils, library resource councils, each a multi-type library system in New York State. ESLN's unique structure provides support for libraries and archives of all types and sizes into a statewide platform for shared services and collaborations. To spread the word about the work we're doing on behalf of New York libraries, we have scheduled webinars with staff and service providers on the last Friday of each month at 10 a.m. This, I believe, is the last one of the year. So if you've joined us before, thank you for all of your attendance. So in this last part of a 9-part series, webinar series that we've done, exploring the various services ESLN has to offer, we've covered such topics as New York Heritage, Ask the Lawyer, Empire Library Delivery, and more. If you're interested in watching any recordings of the ESLN Services webinar series, you can visit the ESLN website at ESLN.org, and we will put a link in the chat so that you can find that and jump out to that at will. So now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our presenters. You've already met me. Our other presenters today are Heidi Ziemer with the Western New York Library Resources Council and Susan Detremont from the Capital District Library Council. And these are my colleagues. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
So we have a little bit of an agenda. I'm just going to quickly share my screen on this. This is, I'll just go ahead and just leave it like this, if that's okay. Our agenda today is simply to tell you about our background as archivists and what makes us qualified to do this service for you all, what the service is and the inspiration behind the pilot. Understanding the online form, we'll go through that with Susan and make some suggestions to you all for asking effective questions. We'll go through some of the recently asked questions that are currently on the website and talk about what our thought process was through that. And then we'll take questions from you all about the program itself. So Heidi, why don't you talk a little bit about your background?
Okay, thanks, Nicole. So yes, I am with the Western New York Library Resources Council, and actually I've been with the council since 1990. I started as an archivist. I got my training at the National Archives. Prior to that, I spent a couple of years at the National Archives, went through the training program, worked there, and then came back to Buffalo, New York, which is where I live, and in 1990. And so I served as the regional archivist for the documentary heritage program in the Western New York region from 1990 until the program shifted in 2015 over to the Conservation Center for Art and Historic Artifacts, or CCAHA, in Philadelphia, under the state archives. So I've been in the archival field for over 30 years. Love working with the small repositories in the Western New York region, as well as the big ones, and looking forward to continuing that.
Susan, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. I'm Susan Donchman at the Capital District Library Council in Albany. And a long time ago, at the start of my career, I worked at the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library in Boston, which is also part of the National Archives. So I went through probably a similar training program to what Heidi went through at the National Archives. I also then moved to the Wisconsin Historical Society in Madison, Wisconsin. That's where I got my library degree. And I held several positions at the Historical Society, including some processing positions, and then some collection development positions, which involved dealing with donors and evaluating collections to see how they fit our collecting needs. We had a couple of specialized national collections there, one on social action, like documenting movements, activist movements throughout the United States, and another one on obviously Wisconsin, like the history of Wisconsin, but we focused a lot on more contemporary history of Wisconsin to collect that material before it got lost. And then once I moved to Albany, I also was a regional archivist in the documentary heritage program, like Heidi. So I've known Heidi for a while. And now I am the continuing education coordinator here at CDLC, as well as the digital project manager, which mainly focuses on New York heritage, if you're familiar with New York heritage. So not working directly hands-on with archives. Oh, someone else is a badger in the yay, Rebecca. Losing my train of thought there because I got all excited about Bucky Badger. Also New York heritage, which is not working directly with material that we hold here, but it is obviously tangentially related to archives.
Okay, great. Well, this is actually my third or fourth career as being an archivist and a librarian. And since I came to New York and got my degree in library science and spent, the certificate in archives management at the Long Island University Post campus, I've been essentially kind of scrapping together various career choices with different historical societies, small house museums, small organizations, things of that nature. And so I would say most of my education has come from really being hands-on, boots on the ground, in the basement, digging things up, cataloging them, and getting them out there to the public, either in the form of an exhibit or something online. So a lot of my experience is really kind of School of HK. So I'm very happy to be with people who have a distinguished background in the National Archives. But we'll go ahead and get moving along our agenda, just so that we make sure that we have plenty of time to talk about Ask the Archivist. Since we've talked about ourselves, let's talk a little bit about the program itself. And Heidi's going to kind of give us a little bit of an overview there. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen in case you have something there.
Okay. So the Ask the Archivist program came about through a series of things. If you're familiar with the other Ask services that are shared across the state, through the Empire State Library Network, the Ask the Lawyer and the Ask the HR Expert. After the end of the Regional Archivist service sorry, strange noise coming out of my basement. After the end of the Regional Archivist services through the Documentary Heritage Program, where there was a person or there were persons in each of the 9 regions, we felt that there was this need for follow-up from the Documentary Heritage Program Services of New York State, or DIPSNY. If you're familiar with that, that is how the program currently runs. People can apply for assessments and arrangement and description assistance, preservation assistance, strategic planning, but there's no like person in the regions of the state. So, you know, DIPSNY comes in and they do the report and they give them the information. And we just felt that that regional service, that presence, was something that was still needed, especially for smaller repositories who find it hard to apply for grants or access some of these services. There are a limited number of applicants that are accepted. And, you know, maybe just have a simple question as opposed to wanting a whole lengthy report. So it was decided that we would try this out with the 3 of us who are the remaining archivists of the regions in the regional offices. So we wanted to try this service out, and that's where we are right now.
Great. Yeah, because there's a lot of folks out there that just maybe have 1 or 2 questions and really need the advice of a professional. That's exactly what this is about. Susan is going to share her screen and show us, starting with the ESLN. This is again what we talked about before. ESLN.org is the main homepage for the Empire State Library Network, and you can see once you get to the homepage how we can navigate you over to the form. And so, Susan, take it away.
Okay, so again, this is the ESLN.org website, and right up here, there's the Ask the Archivist link. And if my internet, there we go. And it's pretty self-explanatory. This is where you would submit a question. This tab here is where we have put information about recently asked questions, and this gives a background to how the service works and who is eligible. And that is just one thing that I want to point out, is that you do need to be a member of an ESLN council. If you're not sure if you're a member or not, you can submit the question and we'll tell you if you are or not, or you can ask your regional ESLN council whether or not you are. So if you scroll down here, you will get the link to the Ask the Archivist form, or you can just scroll down. But if it doesn't work, you can click on here. And I'm just going to go through the form as though I were a person in the field asking a question, and you'll see it says, please provide as much detail as possible to your question, and an archivist will respond. It says here within 2 weeks, and so far we haven't been inundated with questions, so we definitely have been meeting that guidepost. But you just put in your name, and the identifying information of your question will not be posted to the website. So this information that you put in here is just internal to the 3 of us. And this is where you'd put in your institution. So put it in under the name that you use when you're a member, so we can make sure that you are a member of a council. And this, you hopefully know what county you're in, and you just do that, your email. Okay, and this, these are general topic areas around archives. If you're just do your best guess, this helps us code things for the recently asked questions, or helps to also to figure out which one of us may want to take a first stab at answering it. But if you're not sure, you can always do other I have a question that is related to, well, let's see. The question I have is probably related to description and metadata, and you'll see what it is in a moment. It's a question that one of you submitted with your registration today. And so it says, what recommendations do you have for collection management software, especially software that has an online exhibit component? So I could have, potentially picked another topic, but I picked description and metadata. And then you'll see up here, it says we'll answer within 2 weeks. And down here, it says a minimum turnaround time is 2 weeks. So it's around 2 weeks that you'll get your answer, let's say, but it won't let you, we'll just say November 17th. You have to put in a date that's at least 2 weeks ahead. And if you have any information, like for instance, if you're wondering how to preserve a particular item, it has a rip or something like that, you can attach a photograph. If you have the name, a couple of names of that you might want to call a collection, you could put it there, but you do not have to do an attachment. I don't know that we've had any questions with attachments yet.
I had a couple, and I might even go through that one as my example, but yeah, someone had asked me about a painting and had taken a couple of pictures, and that was really helpful in order to answer the question that they had. So if you do have a question about an object or a textile or something like that, I'd say take a couple of really good pictures and upload them for us to give you a better chance at a good answer.
Okay, and then all you have to do is submit, and that email gets sent to the 3 of us, and we do our research and we give you an answer as best we can. Sometimes our answer will be that this is too big of a question for us or we can't answer it. But in this case, we will probably come back to you with more questions, because that seems like a pretty straightforward question. What do you recommend? But we would have a number of questions that we might ask you, or ask you to ask yourself. Like, for instance, is the collection, which is your priority, the exhibition part of it? If so, maybe Omeka might be a good piece of software for you. Is it more of the collection management? Well, maybe you would want something like archive space or past perfect. Are you going to be using museum objects, or just in there, or just archival objects? What's your environment? What's your IT environment? What's your budget? Who would be working on this? Who's your audience? How much support do you want from a vendor? What's the size of your holdings? Is it finite, or are you still collecting things? Do you expect it to grow? That sort of thing. So we might come back to you with some questions. And in this case, the answer we might, once we get those answers, be able to give you some more suggestions, or that might be our answer, that you need to go and think about these things before you're at the step where you're able to purchase a collection management software. So that's, I don't know if there's anything else that the other 2 of you have to add on that.
I mean, the only thing I would say is again, the more specific you can get, don't be shy. There's plenty of character space in the question box. So I always find that when somebody's asking a question, they kind of hold back, and then I have to kind of peel away at what the real question is. So if you can give us a specific question, or as detailed as possible, then we have a better chance of really nailing down what it is exactly you need. And of course, we are here as well. If you, our emails and phone numbers are widely available through not only, this website, but our own individual councils. So you can follow up if you need to with us, individually, after you get a question like this. Maybe if you have other questions. That's my 2 cents. The more specific, the better. I don't know if Heidi wants to add anything.
No, I think that's, that's right. I think just making that initial contact, like Nicole said, this often is not just a one-step process. It requires communication, more questions, and yeah, so good.
Since you've already got the website, I was going to say,
sorry, I just stopped my share. I can do that again.
Since you already have the website up, let's take, and we're doing great on time, by the way, so no need to rush. But going through what we've already accomplished with the handful of questions that have come through to each of us, we thought maybe we would take a question apiece and kind of dive in as to, what resources we've all used in answering these questions, kind of our line of thinking. And I don't know who wants to go first.
I can go first since I have the screen pulled up.
Okay.
So this one here, how can I clean a cross-stitch woolen pillow slip handmade in 1940? Which that's more of a museum object question than an archives question, but we can answer these. If we have the knowledge, we will answer them. And if we cannot, we'll get back to you and let you know. For this question, I am lucky enough that I have several conservators in my region, and I asked them for advice and also resources. So if you click on this, you can get the full answer. As you can see here, I went to the American Institute of Conservation. If you really want somebody to look at the item closely and get better advice than more detailed advice, I shouldn't say better, more detailed advice than what we're able to provide here, you can go there. But I also provided information about you really want to try to vacuum it and not get it wet, because you don't know what is in the dyes, what might happen to it. And I provided links to certain documents that would give you detailed instructions on how to do those things. One from the North Carolina Connecting to Collection site, which is aimed at smaller places, and one from the Canadian Conservation Institute. So
All good resources too, actually, since you're right there, Susan, I think,
here's your one with someone did a supporting documentation, but
yeah, I mean, I can do that
or
one.
which one do you want to do? A different
that's
one?
fine. That's the one that I did, the one about the amateur painting and artwork in a closet. Why not?
Okay, you want me to open that one up? Right.
Sure. So this again, this was more about preservation. If you scroll all the way down first so people can see. So that is the image that was sent to me. It helps that I have an art history and actually fine arts background. So I kind of had an idea once I zoomed in a little bit about what materials were used and what specifically, what medium that was. So this is pretty much, I just had a 2-paragraph answer. And of course, if there had been some more questions or follow-up questions, I would have been happy to take them. But this was kind of where I chose that it was a kind of like a case study about how what we treat at our own home to preserve items and what we wouldn't necessarily do in a house museum or a regular museum with art differs in the sense that we might use a fixative at home with our artwork, but if we've received an item, and especially in this case, it felt like it was either a pastel or an oil pastel, as they're called as well. Not as well, but those are 2 different types of medium. But it appeared to be a little of both, and without being able to actually get really up close to the item and even so much as like maybe touch it or like get a little Q-tip on it to see exactly what it is. But essentially, I just told this individual about the best way to preserve it in a box, what to use, a couple of ideas about what not to do, being careful about how it's stored, that it should be stored flat, making a little comment about how noticing the little metal rings that are holding these 2 panels together also appear to be on the either side of the panels, indicating that there might be other panels involved, and to kind of keep an eye out for that. And also just sort of being mindful of the fragility of the rings holding the panels together, and also you know, the possibility of rust. So, and the importance of environment in storing art. So that was a very kind of fun question to answer, because it was very, this is my object, what do I do? And I feel like in a lot of ways I can excel at those kinds of questions. You know, we do our best when we see people ask us about things like policy. We can give you many outstanding, reputable policy resource links. And we're happy to do that. But I feel like in a lot of ways, this sort of service is leaning more towards questions like this. And so that was a fun one to answer.
And I feel like this was a good question because the person, as you can see here, did put in a fair bit of detail, so you could know specifically what they were asking.
And I guess at the other end of that is the mold outbreak question. Is that the one that I was going to?
There is the mold outbreak. Ooh.
Right.
Oh, there it is. Is that?
Yep. So the question was, we've got a terrible book mold outbreak. Any advice on how to contain and resolve the issue?
Yeah.
Pretty open question. And that's what I said. Sometimes it's just good to make that initial contact, and then we can start, you know, trying to zero in on what is the issue. So my response was, you know, by terrible, is it there are lots of books with mold, or is it very contained but very serious? What's the source of the mold? Like, how did it start? And what is the collection that it's affecting? Is it, you know, regular circulating books, or even book material? Is it archives material? Are these materials replaceable? So I said, and this is where, again, you know, it's probably beyond the scope of our ability to do anything to help, but we can certainly point people in the right direction for immediate help. And so knowing about places like the Northeast Document Conservation Center as a resource, and other service providers for emergency salvage is useful, because some people are not aware that they exist until they have their own emergency. And then in talking about the response with my colleagues, Susan mentioned that her council's preservation interest group had a LibGuide with some other useful information on mold. So I was able to use that as a referral as well. And then just reminding this person that the health of the staff is paramount importance. You know, a lot of times we're focused on the collection. We forget about the people who are managing these collections. So just trying to, you know, remind people that in any emergency situation, look to the humans before you look to the objects. Right. And I think the other thing was, I actually followed up because I wanted to make sure that the answer was okay and suitable. So I did contact this person. I followed up with a phone call, and she said that's exactly what she needed to hear. She kind of knew that that's what, but she had to have this information from an outside person, from an expert, so that she could go to her administration and say, look, we have to deal with this situation. So, you know, it was something that was needed for the physical situation, but it was also, I guess, information that she needed support in handling the situation the way she wanted to.
That makes a really good point. Sometimes we get questions, or I get questions just through my day to day, and it's because someone is really trying to seek a second opinion or get some support so that they can take it to a board or their executive director and say, we need to look at this a little more closely, or this could be potentially damaging to, again, staff, visitors, and the environment and the collection. So again, we take all these questions, and you know, we'll get back to you. We do the best we can, and if we need to follow up, we'll either follow up directly or invite you to return with other questions and get a dialogue going. So sometimes it's not just a simple, yes, this is it. They're never almost that simple, right? But it's at least, it's about getting conversation started and giving you the resources that everyone could use, that we use every day in our work. So good. That was good. That was really good, Heidi. You did right by those people.
Do we want to briefly go over the other questions that were submitted?
Well, we're right around
Okay.
10:30. Can we see if there's some questions in the Q&A? And also, sometimes people throw questions in the chat. That's okay too. We'll take a look. I think there's one in the Q&A here. Okay. All right. So this isn't quite exactly related to the service itself. It's more of a question that would be asked into the website, but let's just go ahead and try and tackle it with these last few minutes that we have. So we have a participant that says, how can you integrate volunteer work in an archive when the prospective volunteers don't have archive related experience and training isn't a viable option? I have a little bit of experience with this. This is kind of how we do things as well. If it's if you're wondering about how the questions get divvied up, that's where the county question comes in on that form that you saw, the online form. If it's in Heidi's region, she automatically takes it. If it's in Susan's region or my region, we take our own regions. And then if it comes in from another region, we either have a discussion about it or somebody just goes, you know what, I'll just take this one. I have some thoughts already about it. We can all put in our 2 cents on this one. I don't know. This might take a little bit of time to think about it. It's really hard to get volunteers. I mean, if you want volunteers to work in an archive, there has to be some type of training. Even docents require a bit of training so that they're telling the correct narrative and not enforcing any earlier legends and lore of days gone by that have not been verified. Susan, you said you'd start with the standard from the SAA?
Yeah, this is, it's not really guidelines, but it's just a standard on how you would use volunteers. And it talks a little bit, basically what you were saying, that you do need to have some sort of training, that it's different from an internship, like describing the difference between interns and volunteers, which I think often is a problem where those get those 2 different types of roles get conflated. And I know there are also, Society of American Archivists also has publications that you can purchase about working with volunteers, but this is a good place just to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can maybe find things that possibly can come off of, and again, more specifics are better. But if you've got some admin work, maybe that's kind of where instead of you getting bogged down as the archivist or collections manager or what have you, executive director, if that's what it is, maybe some of those admin type jobs can be passed off onto a volunteer and allowing you to have more freedom with the collection and whomever has the most experience. So a little bit more detail, we would definitely go back and we'd give you an answer, but we'd probably have a lot of other questions too, and would ask you to think about some other things as well. Heidi, do you have anything you want to chime in on that?
No, I just put in the chat that I was also going to refer to that PDF. The Society of American Archivists has great resources. And And, these used to be publications. I guess a lot are now just, they revise them and put them online and put them in these PDFs. But that is probably the best way to start, is to go to the people who have had the experience of working with volunteers who don't have training in archives.
Okay, well, that seems to be our only, there we go. No more open questions. Thanks, Rebecca, for taking care of that housekeeping stuff for us today. So far, it doesn't look like anything is in the chat. So I believe then that concludes this program. You can see now in the chat, Rebecca has put the request form for the certificate of attendance, and also some of the other links that I'm about to talk about. Again, visit the ESLN website, ESLN.org, for more information. Thank you all, though, for joining us today. As mentioned previously, this is the last of our ESLN service webinar series. If you'd like to watch the recordings of any of our past our previous sessions, please visit the ESLN website. The link will be added to the chat shortly. Thank you for joining us for today's session and the whole series, if you've joined us for all of that. Thank you again for my co-hosts, Heidi Ziemer and Susan Detremont. And signing off, I'm Nicole Menkese. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend, and we appreciate your time today. And join us at Ask the Archivist when you have some questions. Thank you, everyone.